The world of retro gaming is broader than most people realize, even on a console as underloved as the Atari 5200. The 5200 in particular only received 69 games between its birth in 1982 and its death in 1984. But the homebrew community refuses to accept that death and continues to bring the console new experiences to this day. If you don't know what homebrew is, Wikipedia defines it as a term for software produced by hobbyists for proprietary video game consoles which are not intended to be user programmable. So, ports or clones of games that were never intended to be played on the 5200, hacks of games that were, and of course, new games for our not-so-new consoles. Even today, in 2026, the community continues to push the limits of what the Atari 5200 is capable of. Hi, I'm Paul, and this is Indie Pop Productions, pop culture from an independent point of view. And this is the AtariMax Ultimate SD Multicard for the Atari 5200. The idea is simple. You just take this SD card, fill it with as many Atari 5200 ROMs as you want, and yes, those ROMs are so small, you can fill this 4GB card with as many ROMs as you want, put it back in the multicard, then plug it into your console just like you would any other game. Next year, the Atari 5200 turns 45. That is old, brittle plastic and finicky electronic parts. Every time I go on eBay, the number of non-working consoles for sale outnumbers working consoles more and more. Preserving these ROMs online ensures that these versions of these games will not be lost to time. And by loading those ROMs onto an AtariMax card, you could cut down on the wear and tear while still using original hardware. Every time I buy a new game, I load that new ROM onto my AtariMax card. Now, I do still use my original cartridges from time to time just to make sure everything's in working condition, but by using this card for my day-to-day play sessions, I should, in theory, extend the life of my console without the constant plugging in and unplugging of games into that cartridge port. It also allows games that never received a physical release or are no longer available to be played on the console they were designed for. Now, some homebrew titles do still get released physically, either in small batches or on demand, and I enjoy supporting those designers and collecting those carts when they're available. But some designers just toss a link up to the ROM on the Atari Age forums and say, here's this thing I made, enjoy. Talk about for love of the game. But that's enough about that. Let's go plug this thing in and play some games. Just like any other game, you plug it in and it loads up almost instantly. You see a menu, it gives you a few different options. It's even got Beef Drop already on there, but I just made two new folders that have all my games in them. This was the folder for all of my actual purchased official games, but we're going to skip over for that for now. We're going to go over to the Homebrew, and I put a copy of Beef Drop in this folder as well, just to keep everything well organized. So let's go ahead and take a look at Beef Drop by Ken Siders. Beef Drop supposedly started as an April Fool's joke on the Atari Age forum in the early 2000s. Unsurprisingly, considering the age, I wasn't able to find the original post. If you know what the joke is, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Regardless, the joke must have been well received, because it didn't take long for the joke to become a full-fledged game. To really understand Beef Drop, you have to talk a little bit about Burger Time. Released in 1982, Burger Time was a popular arcade game where you play as Chef Peter Pepper, trying to build giant burgers while avoiding giant living food. It received ports to several consoles, and its release in 1982 would have made it perfect for an Atari 5200 launch title. But it never happened. Bad news for 5200 owners at the time, but retro gamers have been blessed with Ken Siders' excellent port, Beef Drop. Instead of simply porting one of the other console versions of the time, Ken made Beef Drop from scratch, replicating the arcade experience as closely as the 5200 would allow. Like in Burger Time, you play as Chef Peter Pepper, running around a maze-style arcade screen, popular in arcade games at the time, up and down ladders and across platforms, dropping giant burger ingredients as you go. Man-sized franks, eggs, and pickles will try to stop you. You can catch them in falling ingredients or temporarily stop them with pepper, but use the pepper sparingly. You don't have much. Complete all the burgers and you get to move to the next screen, where you will be greeted with a more difficult maze and faster enemies. Beef Drop was released physically by Atari Age in 2004, but like many unauthorized ports, was lost to the purge of 2023. That's the year Atari proper purchased Atari Age and decided they could no longer sell games they didn't have the legal rights to. Lawyer stuff. As I understand it, before his unfortunate passing in 2017, Ken authorized Beef Drop to be added to every copy of the AtariMax Ultimate SD Multicard. AtariBlast is an example of a game for the Atari 5200 that wouldn't have been possible during the console's original life. The file is just too big. It wouldn't have fit on a cartridge. It had to be split into two files which could be combined and played as one game, only on a AtariMax card. This game is awesome. I'm just barely scratching the surface of it here. It is definitely not the type of experience I expected to have access to on a console from '82 to '84. The game was designed by Paul Lay, with graphic art by Harvey Kong 10, and was released in 2016 for both the Atari 5200 and the Atari 8-bit computer systems. Due to the size, it has never received a physical release. AtariBlast is a high-energy, high-speed space shooter with elements from other popular space shooters, and more references to other video games of the time than you're likely to catch in several playthroughs. The game goes back and forth between being a horizontal or vertical scrolling shooter depending on the level. You shoot the rapid waves of enemy ships and pick up weapons upgrades along the way. But watch your shields. You have a pretty good life bar, but only one life. There are ways to replenish your health bar, especially after defeating an end-level boss, and after each level a code appears. Played like a tune-on Simon to skip straight to that level next time. Much newer, the final version of Wee Ninja was just released this year. I didn't realize it until I had already picked my games, but I believe this game was designed by Paul Lay from AtariBlast. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Homebrew research mostly consists of scrolling the Atari Age forums. If I'm correct, then Paul, who posts on Atari Age's Place-Off, has created some amazing homebrew, and you'll be seeing more of those titles on my channel in the future. As you might guess by looking at it, Wee Ninja is the Atari 5200 homebrew answer to Super Mario Bros., and it is one of my favorite things on this console. Like in Super Mario Bros., you can jump on enemies to kill them, but power-ups come in the form of different colors of ninja suits, each with a different power such as temporary invincibility, throwing stars, or swords. To keep it challenging, you only get a few stars or pokes, but even when you're out, you get to keep the suit until you take damage. I've only gotten a few levels in so far. This game can be challenging, but it is incredibly fun, and the platforming can be surprisingly precise. Due to the different control types of the console, you can't play it exactly like Super Mario Bros. Don't let the pipes trick you. Jumping feels very different, but to me, that just adds to the fun. I've said it before, it's unfair to compare original games to homebrew, but can you imagine how differently things could have gone if games like this were available on early Atari consoles? Last summer, while developing the game, Place-Off said he had no interest in giving the game a physical release, probably because Nintendo's ninja lawyers were much scarier than any of the ninjas in his game. Made sense, so I lost track of the conversation. But apparently, back in January, popular demand caused him to release a one-time only, very small batch of the game physically, and I missed it. Thankfully, all but one of Place-Off's games are available to download for free on Atari Age forums. We'll talk about the exception in an upcoming video. I am grateful to be able to play this game in any form, but man, I'd really love to get my hands on one of those physical copies. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to leave a link in the description below to the AtariMax website in case you want to check it out for yourself. I'd also love to hear in the comments down below what your experience is with Homebrew. Do you play Homebrew? And if you do, how do you play? Do you use original hardware, or do you use emulation on a computer or your phone or a gaming device? I do want to go ahead and officially announce our 100 subscriber thank you giveaway for the GameSir Pocket Taco mobile controller. This is not in any way associated with YouTube or GameSir. This is just my way of saying thank you for all the support I've received since I started making content more regularly back in January. I'll post the rules in the description. Got to be 18 or over, continental United States only. Sorry, shipping is very expensive right now. We're gonna keep this simple. Just post a comment saying what game you would be most excited to play on a Pocket Taco, and I will use a random comment picker to pick the winner 2 weeks from today. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, not for the contest anymore, but it does genuinely help the channel grow, and I'll see you next time.